Alrighty, let's see what the public has to say. Alrighty, let's get to work on part 2. Yes, my friends, welcome back to the Lucas LEGO Power Half Hour, featuring the only LEGOs you can't play with. For those that are new here, I took it upon myself to watch and review every LEGO Star Wars cartoon in order to celebrate the release of the Skywalker Saga. I didn't think many people would like it that much. To my surprise, they did like it that much. What? And so here I am, super excited to do a second part. Last time we took a look at the various single-release shorts, along with the horrors contained within them, but today we're going to check out a couple of LEGO Star Wars miniseries. Bite-sized arcs consisting of less than 10 episodes each that when put together creates something special, much like the bricks they're based on. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but let me just say this. While these miniseries still have the goofy tongue-in-cheek humor that the series is known for, they also make an attempt to have a decent amount of depth in character, story, and even continuity. Yeah, LEGO Star Wars. Usually the only deep things you'd find these guys in are the couch cushions, but nope, the LSW gang are trying to take on some compelling stories this time around. And I'm sure the biggest question on your mind is, did it actually work? Well, strap your anuses in and secure any belongings, cause we about to find out. Let's go! Let's start with the series that was so highly requested, I almost gave it its own video. LEGO Star Wars, The Yoda Chronicles. This 7-part miniseries had quite the interesting release schedule, with its first 3 episodes coming out on Cartoon Network between May 29th and November 27th, 2013, and the last 4 showing up on Disney XD between May 4th and November 23rd, 2014, under the title The New Yoda Chronicles. So yeah, this marks the first time that Disney XD would host a LEGO Star Wars property instead of just Cartoon Network, which we should have expected since the mouse acquired the rights to Star Wars as of October 30th, 2012. Disney XD. The final resting place for many an awesome show, including DuckTales, Star Vs, Gravity Falls, and of course... Anyway, we got Michael Price back as the head writer, whom you're all familiar with, assisted this time by Jake Blaze, a guy you'll be seeing a lot of as we tackle more projects, trust me. Directing was handled by Martin Skov and Michael Hegner, 2 guys who would later go on to direct for Lego Ninjago, Masters of Spinjitzu. Also, they worked on this weird, ugly ducklings CGI cartoon, complete with bottles of tequila and giant duck breasts. Hey, Saberspark, you want to collab? Anyways, with all that being said, what's the actual show about? Well, in case you couldn't tell, Yoda's our main character this time around, or at least one of the main characters, and these episodes chronicle the things that he did between our favorite movies. The first 3 take place during the Clone Wars, and the last 4 occur between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. This whole supplementary approach gives the creators the freedom to craft their own unique stories, scenarios, and even original characters, which they do. And I can say without hesitation, I have never had more fun watching a Star Wars property in my life. This show is amazing. Every familiar face you'd recognize from Star Wars has been turned into a goofy caricature of their original selves, and I am all for it. The Sith have gone from the most fearsome threats in the galaxy to straight-up Saturday morning cartoon villains. Darth Maul went from every 13-year-old's definition of awesomeness to a complete buffoon, who's constantly making stupid mistakes and getting his row butt handed to him in every fight. Plus, he just looks so stupid waddling around on those skinny robot chicken legs. That's my theme song. I know, he didn't even sing the lyrics. Everyone knows it's supposed to go like this. Grievous and Dooku have an amazing love-hate relationship, constantly teetering the line between reluctant allies and an old married couple.
Hold me. I am holding you. Hold me like you mean it.
Yoda's got plenty of silly moments, the most common of which being his Yoda speak that he uses for almost every line he says. I'll admit that it really annoyed me in Padawan Menace, but it kinda grew on me as the series went on. C-3PO is, Well, he's still C-3PO. He's a prim and proper scaredy cat, what's not to love? Vader keeps on bouncing back and forth between a legitimate threat and a goofy man-child. And the fact that they got Matthew Sloan back to voice him is perfect, because he's just so good at swapping between intimidating and stupid at a moment's notice. It's like he's flipping a switch or something. Admiral Akbar is just there to make jokes about his famous meme-worthy line, literally taking the one thing his character is known for and making it his entire personality. Lando Calrissian and his dad Lindo are now freaking disco kings with massive afros who party around the galaxy in the Funkadelic Falcon. Cause we all know it just wouldn't be LEGO Star Wars without some kind of disco, right? The first game did it. The second game did it. And now this show does it. Also, they got Billy D. Williams, the original Lando, back to play Lindo, which is just the icing on the groove-tastic cake. And then there's Palpatine, who usually plays the straight man in a lot of situations, but is no stranger to being a goofball himself.
I am so gonna win. The Jedi are gonna lose.
I love how he constantly has to keep switching between the Chancellor and the Emperor on the fly just to keep up the illusion that he's on the side of good. And everything keeps interrupting him, from surprise visits to emergency meetings to freaking Skype calls. Heck, the only reason that no one catches on is because the Jedi are just too stupid to live. I mean, you know your galaxy is screwed when R2-D2 is the smartest one in the room.
Chancellor Palpatine!
Yes!
We can ask him who he thinks the Sith Lord is.
But the funniest characters in this show are ones I haven't even mentioned yet. No, not the droids, not the Jedi, not Sheev, not even Goku. The funniest characters are the freaking billboards. Seriously, does every planet in this galaxy need a travel brochure tagline? Every time we change locations, they display one of these things, and for some reason, it's always funny. It's like they're trying to sell me a vacation package as I watch the fate of the galaxy unfold. Alright, so we got a lot of silly characters here, but is the stuff they do and say actually funny? Oh, you better frickin' believe it. This show is a riot from beginning to end. Not just because the jokes are well written, but because the creators follow one of the golden rules of comedy. No, the other one. There you go. Adding variety to the gags in your movie or TV show will keep the audience guessing on what they're gonna make fun of next, leading to a bigger element of surprise, leading to bigger laughs. And Yoda Chronicles has got variety to spare when it comes to the funnies. Let's go over some of my favorites, shall we? We got classic gags like the Emperor putting Vader on hold and the message saying, "Thank you, your call is very important to us." Oh man, we've all been there. Dialogue gags with the characters having really funny exchanges.
I want that pod racer.
And I want a nose job.
Slapstick gags like this amazing bit of frozen Chewie falling into the snow, which I watched like 7 times. A ton of Star Wars in-jokes like Yoda completely failing to say his famous "do or do not, there is no try" quote, and that slow-moving Star Destroyer from A New Hope actually backing up traffic. That's perfect. The obvious Lego-based gags like characters' hair pieces constantly falling off or flipping around, and Jedi using the Force to build random things out of Lego, like a baseball bat to just yeet enemy ships out of the galaxy. I even laughed at the dumb puns, like when Dooku tries to teach a class full of evil Padawans, and he ends up calling them his Badawans. Like, come on, that's adorable. Oh, and speaking of the Badawans, this entire concept of Dooku and the Sith teaching a class is probably the funniest thing in this entire show. They constantly get mocked and teased by this posse of little brats, including a palette swap Darth Maul, a boy who thinks spiking up your hair with hair gel makes you look cool, and... Is that a freaking edgy astromech droid? Beep, beep, ba, beep, boop. Heck, you want to see the best joke in this show? Dooku brings in a very strict-looking substitute teacher to try and discipline the kids. And the second he steps up, you could just feel the kids getting intimidated as they immediately shut up. Now, I thought this guy was going to have a really high-pitched helium voice like that Doberman from Up, but no, this is what he sounds like.
Oh dear.
His voice is just burp and fart noises, which completely threw me off guard. Yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit I died of laughter when I saw this. Good build-up, good subversion, good stuff. You might think it's lowbrow, but hey, you are never too old to laugh at a well-executed fart joke. It is one of the golden rules of comedy after all. No, the other one. There you go. Now, I did mention that this series has some genuine depth to it, and I wasn't kidding. When you brush the funnies and follies aside, you have some genuinely intriguing stories here that really kept me invested in wanting to see more. I mean, listen to these plot points. A Force-sensitive clone trooper created using a Sith cloning device and Jedi lightsaber crystals being torn between the two sides that literally make him up. Oh, not enough for you? Well, how about an entire vault of documented Jedi history containing the tricks and techniques from generations of space warriors being hunted down and eventually acquired by the enemy? That all sounds really cool, right? And it is. While it's obvious that the main selling point of this series is the humor, the really cool story ideas and awesome episode-to-episode continuity still kept me invested and made me really appreciate this as a fun and engaging space adventure as well as a comedy. But guess what? Things actually go even deeper than that. Because not only does Yoda Chronicles have great in-show continuity, but it also has continuity between the show and the shorts. Yeah, we got a freaking Lego Star Wars cinematic universe happening here. And almost nothing goes unreferenced. We got Jar Jar working as a janitor, just like in Bombad Bounty. Luke's little fangirl group returns from Empire Strikes Out. Han and Yoda actually share a scene together and even remember their nicknames from Padawan Menace, which made me so happy. And if you thought that C-3PO wielding dual blasters in Padawan Menace was awesome, well then, how about him wielding dual blasters, taking on an army of stormtroopers single-handedly, and spouting off Star Wars quotes like they were Duke Nukem one-liners? I am dead serious.
This is not the droid you're looking for. Now it's your lot in life to suffer.
It is time to kick butt and chew bubblegum. And I do believe I'm out of gum. R2, do you have any gum? However, if there's one thing that kept me invested more than anything else in this series, it's the new character, Jek 14. Not only is this guy interesting, not only is this guy sympathetic, but he's just so freaking cool! He's a Force-sensitive clone trooper with a freaking glowing blue arm. He can shoot giant waves of Force lightning that immediately take out any Jedi or Sith. He can yeet entire ships into space with a mere wave of his hand. He can transform the smoldering remains of a fleet of ships into a planet-sized mothership. He can turn anyone or anything invisible by simply touching them. Like, holy freaking cow, this guy is awesome! And his whole character arc with him literally being made of half good and half evil, struggling with his place in the world, and ultimately deciding that the only choice that matters at the end of the day is his own, was really compelling. It's like a Lego version of What Is Life from Adventure Time, and you really just want the Sith and the Jedi to screw off so he can figure things out for himself. The poor guy just wants to be a master builder for a living. Leave him alone. I also appreciate that Jek is one of the few characters in the show who doesn't make constant jokes. He's played almost entirely straight for all 7 episodes, implying that the creators really wanted you to take him and his arc seriously. And I say mission accomplished. Also, I'm just gonna record this for posterity's sake. I haven't finished Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga yet. In fact, I'm thinking about streaming it on this channel at some point. But I would go absolutely nuts and do donuts in my swivel chair if Jek 14 was your final reward for 100% completion. Think about it, it's perfect! He's the most overpowered guy that's ever been in Lego Star Wars, with cloaking, lightning, and force powers out the wazoo, so he would absolutely be worth the time and effort it takes to unlock him. Plus you'd have the whole Super Smash Bros. NES situation, where they include a super obscure character that only hardcore fans would recognize. People who know him will be pleasantly surprised, and people who don't know him will look him up and eventually become fans of Yoda Chronicles themselves. There's like a 1 in a trillion chance that it'll actually happen, but hey, don't act like you wouldn't want to see that. And if not for 100%, then at least make a DLC. The only negative things I have are barely worth mentioning. Like, some of the special effects were kinda weak, mainly the explosions and the fire. I don't know, they just kinda lack that oomph and bang that destruction like that should have. And some of them just look straight up stupid. Like this full screen explosion when the Emperor's ship crashes. I mean, come on, that looks like an edit I would make. Also, there were some moments that made 0 sense, even when you look at them as jokes. Like General Grievous rusting in the rain was appropriately silly, it was pretty funny, haha. But then after the Imperial base explodes, he comes back to the main villains after presumably falling into the water below, life preserver and all. So the rain rusted you stiff, but swimming in a massive body of water didn't affect you at all? Huh? but like I said, these things barely tarnish the show in any way. So, is Yoda Chronicles gonna be our first property that achieves true Jedi? I mean, it's not exactly flawless, so it would be the most fair to give it a 95. Maybe if there was something to put it over the top for me, I could... Wait, is that Jar Jar with a wife and kids? They actually gave him respect? And he remembers who Anakin is? Fine, you can have the true Jedi, but don't say I never did nothing for you. Seriously though, this is a very enjoyable show. A great lampoon of the Star Wars franchise full of hilarious jokes and quirky visuals, while also being a genuinely engaging sci-fi story with actually compelling characters. It's not Infinity Train levels of profound or complex, but if you're looking for a Disney Star Wars property that's enjoyable from beginning to end, I can't recommend Yoda Chronicles enough. C-3PO and R2-D2. Has there ever been a more iconic duo? Well, besides Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, Simon and Garfunkel, Bill and Ted, Beavis and Butthead, Batman and Robin, Shrek and Donkey, Finn and Jake, Wayne and Garth, Bert and Ernie, Shaggy and Scooby, SpongeBob and Patrick, Ratchet and Clank, Sonic and Tails, Burger and Fries. I'm sure they're up there somewhere though. But yeah, anyone familiar with Star Wars knows that these two are pretty inseparable, and their partnership has been present in almost every Star Wars property in existence. From movies to video games to their own cartoons. Yeah, remember Star Wars Droids back in '85? That was a thing. But how do these two fare in their own LEGO show? Well, we're about to find out with LEGO Star Wars Droid Tales. This one's a 5-part series that was also released on Disney XD from July 6th to November 2nd, 2015. We got Mike Price and Mike Hegner back as the lead writer and lead director respectively, and apparently the series was meant to act as a way to hype up the release of the Force Awakens film, which would occur on December 18th of the same year. Alright, things are looking good so far, but there's still the ultimate question. Did Anthony Daniels come back to play our gold-plated protagonist? Yes, he did! C-3PO-G is in the house, baby! Back again to crack open another bottle of wine.
I am so happy to see you again.
Now at this point you might be thinking, wow, this guy must work for really cheap if they were able to get him for so many projects. Well, it's actually quite the opposite. In reality, Anthony Daniels is so confident that no one could possibly play 3PO better than him that he takes up any opportunity possible to reprise the role. Yep, anytime the character's required, big or small, he comes back to play the part because he feels that only he can do it right. Some might consider that egocentric, but I see it as a power move. Any man with the dedication and drive to put on a bulky suit of metal-plated armor, have back-and-forth banter with Push the Beeping Trash Can, and then continue to lend his voice and body to prequels, video games, TV shows, holiday specials, theme park rides, documentaries, Walmart ads, and even autograph the outside of a plane in character, and then write a freaking book about all that, is someone worthy of respect. Thank you, Mr. Daniels. The next time I chop off C-3PO's limbs and watch him hobble around like Tiny Tim in Futurama, I'll be remembering who made that all possible. But that's enough backstory. How's the show itself? Well, for one thing, it definitely sticks a lot closer to Star Wars canon than Yoda Chronicles does, not only doing full recaps of all 6 movies, but also having some material from the Clone Wars and even Star Wars Rebels. This is less of a creator's original vision like Yoda Chronicles was, and more of a goofy retelling of actual Star Wars events, kind of like the video games. And I'll say this right away, the fact that the series is mostly confined to the movies really affects my enjoyment of it. One of the things that made Yoda Chronicles so great was the freedom it had. The ability to exist in between canons, craft its own scenarios and interactions, and do pretty much anything they wanted with the story, characters, and comedy. They could do whatever they wanted, keep you on your toes, and even if a joke didn't work for you, you still got the cool story and characters to compensate. But Droid Tales sadly doesn't have that advantage. Aside from the framing device where C-3PO searches for a stolen R2, the majority of the series is just recaps of the Star Wars films with maybe one joke per scene sprinkled in. A lot of us are already familiar with the way these movies play out, meaning if the jokes don't land, well, you're just kinda stuck watching unedited scenes from the movies in Lego form. You know the moments, you know the quotes, you know how it all plays out in the end, meaning the jokes are literally all you have that's unique to this experience. I know I compared it to the games a second ago, but at least there, if you don't like one of the cutscenes, you'll eventually get to enjoy some fun gameplay once it's done, not to mention mustache glasses, slave Leia dances, and gonk droids on speed. But here, it's basically just back-to-back cutscenes, and if they don't make you laugh, then you're just kinda stuck there. Even the gimmick of seeing things from 3PO and R2's perspective doesn't really change too much. The events mostly play out the same, and there are even moments where the droid duo aren't even on screen, so they don't even stick with the gimmick completely. I guess if you're a kid who's never heard of Star Wars and this is your first introduction to the franchise, this isn't too bad of a synopsis. They do speedrun a lot of the scenes, but at least they cover the major highlights, and 3PO's narration is helpful when you're forced to skip certain parts. But overall, if you already know the Star Wars movies and you're not laughing at the jokes, then there's pretty much nothing here for you since it's just 90% recap. C-3PO's little adventure across the galaxy to save his buddy can be cute at times, but other than that, there's not much noteworthy to speak of. Okay, so if the jokes are the only leg this thing has to stand on, are they at least good? Some of them are. I definitely didn't die laughing at any point like I did with Yoda Chronicles. Okay, no, that's a lie. I did die laughing at one point.
Danger is not your middle name. Your middle name is hyphen.
Okay, that was genius. And there's some other good ones too. Like the whole Chewie didn't get a medal gag was pretty good. The fact that Watto opened up a nightclub that put the cantina out of business was great. Child Anakin swapping his head from bright side to dark side was a funny idea, kind of like Bad Cop from the Lego movie. And they even make a genuinely funny Stormtroopers can't aim joke.
Aim for my feet.
But then there are the jokes that come so close to being funny, but they just screw up one aspect. Like when Qui-Gon first meets Anakin and talks about how he would make a really great Jedi one day, we got Watto in the background selling red flags. Like, red flags, get your red flags here! Now that could have been really funny. Like maybe he just happens to be selling the flags because the pod race is coming soon, and we all know that Qui-Gon choosing to train Anakin was a bad idea, hence the red flags being ironic. But then he has to outright say that red flags are meant to warn you about making stupid decisions. No, don't explain the joke, it just ruined it, come on. There are some jokes that are just extremely predictable, like this one.
R2.
I'm not.
R2. Not you, R2.
And then there's the moment where the gang is in the droid factory and Anakin says, it's just like a video game, which this in no way resembles. Oh, I know where this is going. Aw, no! You should have played footage from the actual LEGO Star Wars video game. Dang it, golden opportunity lost. Okay, in all seriousness though, there are a few things that Droid Tales does right. Heck, some aspects are even better than Yoda Chronicles. Most of all, the visuals. In the first scene of the first episode, we see the second Death Star exploding and it looks great. It looks so good. It has way more oomph and impact than any explosion in the previous show. There's also more fluid movements, better looking character models and environments, and just some really sweet looking textures. Look at that sleek sheen coming off of 3PO and R2. Just, beautiful.
Look at that shine!
The only real fault in the animation is that the lip syncing is the worst it's ever been. There are so many moments where the characters' mouths either don't link up to what they're saying or barely move at all. I mean, look at Han here. Does it look like he's saying his lines?
Oh, now that was a textbook escape.
No, it looks like he's saying And lastly, I gotta admit, I really like 3PO and R2 as protagonists. 3PO's genuine love for his little buddy is extremely heartwarming, and Anthony Daniels kills it as always with his performance. Personally, I'd be 100% fine with just sitting down like the main cast and listening to this droid fill my ears with his stories. He's really entertaining. And R2? Well, this little guy is terrifying. I'm not even exaggerating here. He kills multiple members of his own kind without pity or remorse, goes full on Agent 47 and knocks out a droid just so he could steal his parts. He completely demolished a droid factory by himself with no weapons or help. Jeez. Remember when this little soda can used to open doors and repair ships? Yeah, now he's the freaking Angel of Death. Welcome to LEGO Star Wars. All in all, my enjoyment of Droid Tales was pretty mixed. It makes for a decent summary of the main 6 films for new fans and young kids. Some of the jokes are pretty good, the visuals are gorgeous for a TV budget, and Anthony Daniels is awesome as always, but if you're already familiar with the films and you don't laugh at the jokes, there's very little worth watching here. Yoda Chronicles gave you a unique experience that you can't get anywhere else, while Droid Tales gives you an experience you can easily get elsewhere, and better. It's not terrible, not even close, but it's ultimately nothing special if you know your Star Wars well. So, Droid Tales gets a 70. Still a recommendation for sure, but not exactly a must-watch like some of the other cartoons we've looked at. So, does this actually count? I mean, all this amounts to is just a series of quick shorts that play around with the events of The Force Awakens, so it's technically not a miniseries? I mean, it did air on Disney Plus from February 15th to May 6th, 2015, and they apparently repurposed some of the footage for cutscenes in LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens. At least, that's what the wiki says. I personally don't really see it. You know what? I'm just gonna review these real quick so people can't say that I didn't. Sounds good? Alright. So to be fair, I haven't seen The Force Awakens in a few hot minutes, plus I have way more personal attachment to the original 6 rather than the Disney trilogy, but for something that jokes around with the characters and fills in some of the blanks of the film, I thought it was average. The visuals are about the same as Droid Tales, maybe a little bit cheaper with some of the effects like explosions and liquids looking significantly worse. Nobody except for Anthony Daniels and Billy D. Williams came back to reprise their roles, and the replacements they got range from pretty good to...
Not until you give me the location of a no-good cheater named Han Solo.
Is that supposed to be a Scottish accent? Please redub, Scotty. A couple of jokes got a chuckle out of me, like Finn on the bench was cute, and the TIE fighters forming an arrow was okay, and these guys trying to catch a land speeder with a freaking butterfly net, but the rest were either really drawn out, super predictable, or just straight up didn't make sense. Characters don't really have much to them, they're not nearly as goofy and fun as they were in the other cartoons, they're mostly just played straight with the very occasional joke which rarely ever lands. And it's a real shame because there's some really funny people in the cast here, like Lex Lang as Poe. You know, frickin' Neo Cortex from the Crash Bandicoot games? Come on, writers, give him something funny to say. And to all the people who think that Rey is a Mary Sue who can do no wrong, her Lego form won't do much to change your mind. I mean, her short starts off okay. A scrap dealer gives her a bum deal for some decent parts, so she storms off in a huff to find a seller who's more reasonable. Okay, cool, good setup. But when his two goons try to steal her speeder, she perfectly throws a brick at the speeder controls while it's flying around to redirect it into the bad guys' faces. Then she builds a brand new speeder from scrap in like 3 seconds. Then she redirects it into the old dealer's place of business, completely blowing it up, and then perfectly catching the fuel injector that she was after from the start. Look, I'm probably the only person on planet Earth who doesn't completely hate Rey, but geez, my girl, dial it back a bit. Don't give the internet more reason to hate you. Overall, I got next to nothing out of these shorts. They didn't make me want to rewatch the movie, they barely made me laugh, they didn't impress me visually, they just kinda exist. They're not objectively broken or badly written or anything, they're just very bland and unmemorable. I'll meet the Resistance Rises halfway at 50, but that's really the best I can do. I only recommend these if you're a big fan of the Disney Star Wars movies. If not, it's honestly not worth it. Alrighty, that covers all of the LEGO Star Wars cartoon miniseries, complete with an all-time high, a serviceable middle, and a less than impressive low. It was a lot of fun seeing the creators try to lampoon these sci-fi icons and tell interesting stories at the same time. And while some worked out better than others, the full package made for some great content and I'm really glad I watched. But we're not quite done yet, because up next we have the biggest fish in the barrel. A full 2-season LEGO Star Wars series called the Freemaker Adventures. They're starting almost completely from scratch this time, with a brand new cast and entirely original stories. This one's definitely going to take a little while, so in the meantime, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any updates, leave a comment if you have any special stories to share like last time, and give me a like if you like what I make. Yeah, kind of self-explanatory. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all real soon.